Looking forward to connecting with you guys on a Friday morning. We're going to be talking
stuff.
Albemarle County assessments. They were pretty high.
Yeah, they're pretty high, and actually we've got a rock star that's going to help us tackle that on Monday. Woody Fincham's going to come in with Nikki Chambliss, and we're going to attack it in great detail. But we'll talk a little bit about it today and the appeal process, and we had a little bit of success with that in Fluvanna County. We'll share a little bit of that and maybe get into year-over-year Charlottesville Albemarle numbers.
On average, a 13% increase for Albemarle County in reassessments, Keith.
Yeah, some of them, excuse me, folks, some of them might be a little higher, might be a little lower, and, but we're going to have to take a look at them on a case-by-case basis. The big takeaway from today's show and conversation is if you think that you're assessed a little bit above market value or substantially above market value, there's an appeal process, and we were very successful in Fluvanna helping folks as they came out first out of the box, out of the batter's box with that, and we helped one person in Fluvanna County. There was $150,000 over,
Oof.
And they won the appeal.
It's good.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
So it works. If you feel that it's over, reach a trusted advisor or reach out to us, and we'll be more than happy to help you.
Albemarle County residents, we're going to be talking taxes. Charlottesville City residents, we're going to be talking year-over-year sales data for houses in the city. Same with Albemarle County. Give the show a like and a share. We're live across every social media platform known to mankind. Questions, comments, concerns, perspective, put them in the feed. We will relay them live on air to the distinguished gentleman. Yeah. And Real Talk with Keith Smith.
And any case studies, man, I love them.
Oh, case studies are welcome. Of course, Judah Wickhauer's in the mix as well. A lot covering and a lot happening on today's program. Let's rock and roll, Judah. Here we go.
That is only my first coffee for the day.
Oh.
So it's going to take a while to get warm. Oh, sorry.
I'm warmed up.
Judah just gave me a look.
Gives me a look every day.
Yeah, but you deserve it.
No. I sign his paychecks. Guys, welcome to Real Talk with Keith Smith. Good Friday morning. Thank you kindly for joining us. We are live in Charlottesville, across Albemarle County, the Commonwealth, the country, and the world on the I Love CVille network, and we're presented by Yes Realty Partners. A lot we're going to cover on today's talk show. We are going to talk sales data year over year for Charlottesville City and for Albemarle County. We will also talk tax assessments. I talked about this yesterday on the I Love CVille show. If you're living in Albemarle County and you own a house, year over year on average, homes in Albemarle County, a 13% increase on their home assessments. Now's the time to challenge those assessments. If you think they're not applicable, and Keith Smith is going to show you how and explain what you need to do if you'd like to lower that assessment. Judah Wickhauer is the director. Liza, the beautiful brown dog, is the I Love CVille mascot. And this program is presented by Yes Realty Partners, baby.
There you go. And a bunch of other trusted partners. If you pull down the partner tab on Real Talk with Keith Smith, please help them. We could not sit here and do what we do and bring this information to you without them. So we love them very, very much. So please reach out to them and do business with a trusted advisor. I know I said I wanted to start with Albemarle or Charlottesville, but since we kicked off with Albemarle, we probably ought to look at that real quick. And I'm sorry, Judah, to do this to you on the fly, but I'll chat a little bit about why.
What's up, Woody Fincham?
Hey, Woody. The reason why I wanted to do that real quickly. So the tax assessors come in 13%.
I have it broken down by district if you want.
Yep. But I want to caution everybody, these are very big numbers. So your individual property or home could be higher or lower, right? So, when you receive your tax invoice, have you received yours yet?
I have not.
Yeah.
I've not gotten it yet.
Yeah. So they usually go out around mid-January. You receive them about end January. Also, Charlottesville's doing a reassessment too. We just haven't talked about that yet. So they just haven't started hitting the process.
This reassessment scared the bejeebus out of me. So my district, the Scottsville district, on average across the Scottsville district, a 13.52% increase in reassessments. Jack Jewett, 14.23%. Rio, basically 14%. Judah, we found out yesterday, votes in the Rio district. His tax bill come June and December is going to be 14% higher. Rivanna, 15.64%. Samuel Miller, 11.5%. Town of Scottsville, 11.3%, and Whitehall, 12.3%. Those are double-digit numbers.
Yeah, but we want to caution everybody, right? We don't know if your tax bill is actually going to go up, because this is the first step of a little triangle, right, that we've been talking about.
Now you're going to go to the tax rate.
No, the second step is the budget, right?
Okay.
So the first step that they do is they do this assessment now, and really Woody's going to tackle this in great detail or provide insight on it on Monday. But what they're supposed to do is they're supposed to assess at what market value is, and I actually think when we start looking into the slides for Albemarle County, I think the market is actually grown higher than 13%. So, you might be in a better situation, frankly, now in Fluvanna County, where they just did, like, mine was $80,000 over market value, and I was able to win an appeal, but we helped a bunch of folks. The one with the largest amount was $150,000 difference.
That's a lot.
It was two houses next to me, which was weird. So there was a lack of uniformity there. But that triangle is assessments first, budget second. That's why when Ned Galloway comes in and talks about it, watch the budget process. That's the real important portion of it. You kind of know where the elected officials are going to land. And then they set the tax rate. So the question is when they start talking about the budget, you want to be looking for terms called equalization, right?
Well, if the tax rate remains the same year over year,
It goes up.
Albemarle County residents will pay more taxes on their house.
Correct.
If they lower the tax rate to offset the increase in assessments,
You're assuming the budget's staying flat.
I don't think the budget's staying flat at all.
That's exactly.
I think the budget's going up. And I think what Albemarle County is going to end up doing, and the Board of Supervisors will end up doing, is one of two things. They're either going to keep the tax rate the exact same and get, on average, 13% more money from assessments on houses, or the worst case scenario, which I think is what's going to end up happening, is they're going to bump the tax rate up. So then we're going to die the death of two cuts: the death of an increased tax rate and the death on average of a 13% increase on assessments.
Yeah, so the assessment increase is not necessarily a death, because the market value is actually, I think, when you start looking at
It still goes up.
I think the market value is actually higher than 13%.
I agree with that.
So, but we got numbers, I think, that I didn't do it by percentage, I did it by dollar amount. But
It's still more money.
yeah, so what the real thing to pay attention to is the budget discussions, because the assessment from the mind of the elected officials, right, or the county, is just a revenue producing thing, right? It's just part of the formula. The budget really is the important thing to take a look at, because you find out, what's important, what's not. So what they have to do is they have to hit a balanced budget, right? They can't go into 2023, 2024, with a negative budget, right? They have to have a zero. They have to have a balanced budget. So what happens is the budget and the value, the rate, then just is a math problem. Now, there's a lot of political back and forth and so forth and so on, but generally what happens is the debate back and forth is between the rate and the budget, because this is why they do the reassessments so early in the process.
So they know where they stand.
It just sets a value. It
Yeah.
just sets a multiplier out there for it. But the budget is the thing that everybody really needs to watch.
Does Albemarle County raise the tax rate, Keith Smith?
It depends on what they do with the budget. It depends on what they do with the
Does
budget.
Albemarle County end up raising the tax rate, Keith Smith?
Yeah, how about my coffee? Huh? It depends what they do with the budget, right? They could conceivably lower the budget.
Why are you smirking when you're saying that, Keith Smith? Why are you smirking?
Yeah, because I've been doing this a long time. Very rarely do you see a budget go down.
You know who has done that, though?
Nelson County.
Nelson County.
Fluvanna County's actually done it once or twice. But as a rule of thumb, you know, more people are coming in, requires more services, budget goes up. So in theory, the rate should go up.
Yeah.
Right? Because they've got to get that to that zero. Right? So if the assessed value is X dollars, reassessing, and the budget is Y dollars, that rate has to be the multiplier between the two to get to the zero. Does that make any sense?
No, it makes sense. Makes sense. Albemarle County on average 13% increase on assessments. We'll talk about it with Woody Fincham on Monday. Mr. Woody Fincham, friend of the program, one of the best real estate appraisers
on
the Eastern Seaboard.
In the world.
He previously worked for Albemarle County.
Yeah, as part of the assessment team.
Yeah, so he knows what's up.
He's going to bring a very in-depth knowledge to it that Smith here does.
Institutional memory.
Smith here maybe just knows on the periphery, not so much in depth, but in a very simplistic way. That's the triangle that we need to try to do. But so since I got you to set up for Charlottesville, we'll go back and tackle Albemarle later. Or you're in Charlottesville right now? Cool, appreciate that. So, well, I'll tell you what. Since we kicked off talking about Albemarle, let's do that. Let's take a look at slide number 1 for Albemarle County.
And guys, for those that are not watching the show, Keith Smith has put together some fantastic reports with very digestible graphs and data sets. You can find these reports on realtalkwithkeithsmith.com as of this evening. We will have the reports loaded. The first report we're going to go over, for those that are just listening to the audio version of the show and not the visual version of the show, it's year-over-year sales data for Albemarle County.
So, Albemarle County, I break them down by single-family attached, single-family detached. So when you take a look at the slides and when you look at the tab in Real Talk with Keith Smith, you know, there's notes on the bottom on what these acronyms mean. But SFD means single-family detached. So I usually break them down without new construction. That's what we're going to look at first. And then we'll look a little bit more at new construction. Charlottesville, we won't talk new construction because the amount of sold are so small, it's kind of anemic to talk about some of them in single digits. But when you take a look at the slide, you know, I broke it down from 2018 to 22. So 2022, we had 948 homes sold. So these are actual transactions that closed.
This is great data, guys.
So that is 260 under 2021. So
Albemarle County SFD is single-family detached. YOY is year-over-year. This does not include new construction.
does not include new construction. So that was rough 948.
In 2022.
2020, 2021 of the 6 years, actually 7 years, because I've got a little 17 numbers buried in the slide on that, was the banner year, right? That was the year that really we sold the most.
In 2021, there were 1,208 units sold of single-family detached housing stock in Albemarle County. 1,208 in 2021. That is the largest amount in a long, long time.
Since 2017. It was 116 over 2020. 2020 was 1,042.
Units.
My dyslexia kicked in.
1,042 units.
That was 66 over 19. 2019 was 976
units.
Yeah, so we've been talking about for a while that I felt 2022 would be looking more like, as far as volume goes,
And you were right.
18 and 19. In this case, it's probably a little closer to 19.
Right in the middle of 18 and 19 is how 2022 turned out.
18 was 897 on that. So we're looking somewhere in, I think 2022 2023, I think still will be staying around this 18 and 19 thing. But if you don't mind going to slide number 2, Judah, please. So this is price, right? So I broke it down to volume in one slide, how many units have sold, and where's price. And if you bounce between the two slides, you can see where, volume has kind of creeped up since 2018 in a substantial way, but in 22 it dropped right back to 1918 volume. The amount.
Price is ridiculous, dude.
And I didn't do the math.
Ridiculous. Look at the price on single-family detached housing stock in Albemarle County year over year. This does not include new construction. I mean, from 2017, the median sales price in 2017 in Albemarle County for a house
It was 405.
$405,000.
570 now.
The median in 2022, this is Keith Smith data, Real Talk with
No
Keith
new,
Smith.
no new construction.
No new construction is 570. That means from 2017 to 2022, 5 years.
So any real estate agent can do this for you. This is data straight out of our MLS.
$165,000 increase in 5 years.
But I didn't do the percentage, and maybe somebody who's a lot smarter than me can do it on the fly. So 2021, so our banner year as far as dollar value was 2022. And if you take a look at the bar graph, 18 and 19 was pretty flat, was about a $4,000 increase, 19 over 18. But then after that, you start looking at these, 20 was a $39,000 increase over 19. 21 was a $39,000 increase over 20. But 2022 was a $68,000 over. It was over 2021. And I just don't know what the percentage of that is versus this 13%.
You know what well, I can tell it to you off the, back of my hand here. It's a $68,000
Without a spreadsheet,
difference.
I'm lost.
$68,000 difference, 2020 versus 2021. Or
Well-
excuse me, 2021 versus 2022 is a $68,000 difference.
Well, 10% would be 50, right?
Yeah. 10% would be
So
$57,000.
maybe it is 13%.
It is 13% is actually a little bit higher.
Yeah.
So 13% is 74,100, and your data shows it increased by 68,000. So it's a delta of 6,100 toward the county.
Yeah. And again, these are, depending how, and if that's the case,
So really, your data shows it.
a little lower.
It was 12% increase.
Yeah.
In Albemarle County, the assessments went up on average 13%.
So 12 to 13 is awfully close.
Pretty darn close.
Right. So the thing is, in Albemarle County, then it worked, right? Because the assessment is supposed to, by law,
Be market.
be at market rate. And in Fulvana, we did, in many cases, that wasn't the case. And I think a lot of it, and again, this is a Woody question, a lot of it has to do with the differences, the way the jurisdictions do it. Fulvana County hires out a consultant, a appraiser that does these batch appraisals. I don't know if that's the proper
You
terminology.
can come back to us, Judah, and off the graph. Go ahead.
And but Albemarle County has staff; they do it internally in it on that end of it. So I think that's why they were a little bit closer on it. But 12 to 13% is pretty close. So and when I created these slides, I didn't know that the 29 article was going to come out and all that stuff. I did these on what's today? Friday. I did these on Tuesday. So
by your data, and Judah, I'll ask for slide 2 here shortly. By your data, in 2022 there were 948 units sold, right?
correct.
In 2022, those 948 units had a median sales price of $570,000.
Yep.
So the units sold
Or less.
are lower than 2019, but the
But-
median sales price is the highest in Albemarle County history.
Yeah.
You can make a legitimate argument that 2022 was the most challenging year for first-time home buyers in Albemarle County history. Highest price.
Well,
and
when you're at a medium sales price of $570, that's not first-time home buyer.
That's what I'm saying.
Anything.
The,
right.
the hardest time to buy a house for a first-time home buyer in Albemarle County, maybe in the history of Albemarle County, was 2022.
And I think
Think about that.
I think we're at that one. Just to go back to where that 1% might be a little skewed here. I break that depending on what 29 did, right? What their data is.
Their data is just tied to what the press release from Albemarle. That's on the Albemarle website.
Correct. So it depends on what they're including in it, right? So I'm breaking out single-family attached and detached, and that 948 doesn't include attached homes, townhomes in Albemarle County, and it also doesn't include new construction.
Because new construction would drastically skew
Oh,
the
big time.
value upward.
Big times.
New construction would maybe send the median sales price over 600K if you included that.
Well, we should happen to have a
You have
slide
that
for that.
slide.
We have a slide for
That was
that.
a segue for you.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.
The chemistry is working.
No,
Coffee's
the
kicking.
coffee's kicking. Literally, that's
Coffee's kicking.
it's rather pathetic. It's my first cup of coffee.
The coffee's kicking in. But you're going out of order here.
I am
You're
going-
to the new construction slide.
I am.
You got to test him.
No, I'm a little nervous about that.
Okay.
Because I've often wondered if I don't watch myself live when we're doing the show, so I don't know. Is he like putting cat faces on me?
No.
and stuff like that?
He's putting you got a bunch of middle fingers behind you on this.
Would you mind going to 6 for Albemarle County, please? So Albemarle County, single-family detached, year over year. This is the median sales price. This is new construction only, was $740.
Good Lord.
So that went from 570 from existing to 740.
Look at the uptick, viewers and listeners.
So I
we
guess
have
when you threw that all together, I'm assuming that's probably where that 1% is coming in.
Oh, cool. Oh, for sure. That's the delta there. So, folks that are just listening to the show and do not have the advantage of looking at the visual right now,
But they will be able to soon.
it's going to be at realtalkwithkeithsmith.com, what we're talking about, the slides. The slide we're showing is Albemarle County single-family detached homes, year over year, sales values for new construction. And Keith has a median sales price on screen for 2022. In the year 2022, new construction only had a median sales value of $740,000.
But take a look at those bars, how they went up. And oh, by the way, I figured out how to tie them exactly to spreadsheet work. So these are.
Oh, so the graph is accurate.
Yeah, the bars
That's good.
are accurate. That's a little inside conversation.
Yeah, from the pre-production meeting.
For the pre-production. When I started, I couldn't quite figure out how to do it, but I did. So those bars are exactly representing the
These are great graphs, dude.
Yeah, so we went in 18 from 586. Again, we're on new construction, single family detached, up to 740, right? But our volume, which is, hold on a second here.
221 for 2022. Slide 5, Judah.
Yep. Thank you, Judah, for being so patient with us. Yeah, so that again. It was interesting. The banner year for new construction on single-family detached was 18, when it was 586. So that was at 279. And the interesting thing is that's about, if we take a look at single-family detached volume, round the numbers up a little bit. Roughly, we had 950 on 2022 at existing, but only 221 in new construction, which is a pretty decent chunk of it. But it's people think a lot of new construction is going on. That's not a huge number.
Well, still, the 221 new construction in Albemarle County last year was at a 4-year high.
It was a 4-year high. By my numbers, 2020 new construction volume was 220. So it's pretty much on par with 2020 on that end of it. So it's a high, but it's a high by 1.
Sure.
On that end of it.
But it wasn't a substantial drop as an existing construction was. Existing construction in Albemarle County in 2022 had 948 units sold. In 2021, 1,208 units sold.
Correct.
What do you attribute the large drop in existing housing sold versus new construction staying basically the same year over year?
Yeah, so new construction's a really...
You come back to us here.
New construction's really a difficult topic to talk about because there's so many factors, and we were talking about this on Monday. There's so many factors that dial into volume. price is pretty much market driven, right? That's the market end of it. But volume, number of units, the same. When we get to attached product, we'll see that a little bit more evidently with the bouncing of volume back and forth on it. It's timing of when the subdivision was started. There's such a long lead time on these new construction projects that it's really hard to do that when you have existing homes, because that's the term I prefer. They're there, right? And it's an easier number to count or assess. But, what could have happened in 2020, we could have had projects that were 6 years before start hitting.
That's why you exclude it.
It's just so hard to
It's not a barometer. It's not a bellwether.
It's really hard because you've got to look, and that's why Greg Slater does such a good job, because he literally takes the time to dive into every contract and every developer and builder. These are numbers that are just in our MLS, right? And there's also a component on the new construction. There's some new construction that doesn't end up in our MLS. Typically, the custom homes don't, and the production builders like Stanley Martin Homes and so forth and so on will be in the MLS, but some transactions like Bramante Homes might not end up in the MLS because it was an off MLS sale. So it's really difficult to do that. But this is, I think new construction timing is more important than most of our 6 rights. Because when you're doing the development end of it and the building end of it, you've got to time the market right, which is hard to do.
Brutal. Yeah, it's brutal.
Believe me, I know.
I know you do. How do you think these numbers are going to stack up? And granted, it's January. So, this is legitimately a magic wand and crystal ball prediction here.
Yeah, how about the Mets?
How do you think it's going to stack up this year?
So
you knew the question was coming.
Yeah. I'm going to stick with what I've been saying to the tail end of 2022 and going forward on it. That
you think it's going to look like 18?
Volume.
Yeah.
I think it's going to look volume across the board is going to probably look a lot like 18.
But not valuations.
Valuations, and that's why working our way back to this appeal process. And we're looking at very macro county numbers, right? And
what he means by that is he's looking at Albemarle County across the board and not the 6 districts in Albemarle County or even more micro neighborhoods in Albemarle County.
And I believe a couple of things are going to matter going forward. First of all, inventory is not going to get better. And anybody who thinks it's going to get better, they're mistaken. It is not going to get better. I think
Who thinks inventory is going to get better?
If you read some national stuff, some folks think that inventory is going to get better.
Who locally thinks inventory will be better?
I don't know, but some buyers might think that.
Good morning, Neil Williamson and Kevin Yancey.
Hey, Neil. Some buyers may think that. Some sellers may think that. I don't know. We have these conversations on the very, kitchen table level on it. But inventory, I think, is actually going to get worse instead of better, and it's going to be impactful on the overall market. So I think inventory is going to be looking more like, when we do this show next year, more like 17, 18, kind of within that range. And I think from a macro perspective in Albemarle County, now not Carr or Zorro, but Albemarle County, I think you'll see single digits year-over-year increases. I think you'll see a mild one. But
on valuations.
On valuation.
So Yancey's asking that question. Do you see valuations dropping? You say no way.
I do not see valuations.
And part of the reasons he's making that statement, part of the justification of not seeing valuations drop in Albemarle County, 2022 versus 2023, is the meager nature of the inventory levels.
It's the inventory, but Kevin is going to be right. So it's yes, maybe no, yes, right? Micro market's going to matter in 2023. It started mattering at the end of 2022, right? So micro markets will matter. So, a certain section. Let's take Lake Monticello.
All right, let's take Albemarle County.
Got it.
Which micro markets in Albemarle County are you super excited about, and which ones are you somewhat worried about?
Let me sip my coffee. What happened to the softballs, man?
We're now 25 minutes into the show. We're
What
30
happened to the
minutes into the
softballs?
show. I can help you with the ones that will do really well.
We need to have more pre-production meetings about softballs.
The tough part of the question is, which ones are you worried about?
Yeah, so I'll try it a little bit bigger, and then we'll get into
Okay.
some details on it, and it's part of why I think Albemarle County needs to increase its 5%, right? It's urban ring. The closer to the urban ring will do better.
Yeah.
The further away from the urban ring, it will not.
I agree.
And
100%.
I don't want to call out a specific neighborhood,
Okay.
but something like somewhere like in the Schuyler area
Esmont, Schuyler,
will
maybe parts of Afton and Greenwood,
at least stay flat. You're not going to see
Woodridge,
correct, but
Howardsville, Warren.
properties that are going to be closer to the urban ring. That's the reason is expanding, in my opinion, expanding this urban ring is so important on it, which is a whole different discussion to have.
Completely different show.
And that's a Neil Williamson show.
Yeah, can't wait till you're back on the show, Neil.
But that's what it's going to be. So I'll make this prediction. Subdivisions will do better than rural, in my opinion.
100%.
So you're going to see subdivisions increase in value. Certain parts of subdivisions, I use Lake Monticello.
I'll take it a step further. HOH subdivisions will do better than subdivisions.
Yeah, so 90% of the
Or HOA.
and I pulled that number
Yeah,
completely.
I was going to say, there's no way it's 90%, dude.
I completely
That was
pulled
such
that
the
out of,
BS
out,
right
of,
there.
out of the rear end on that one. But it sounded good, didn't it?
90% of subdivisions in Albemarle County are HOA.
What the hell? This doesn't live on forever, does it?
There's no way it's 90%.
Okay, a lot.
A lot.
big
A lot of
number.
them are.
Yeah, so yes. To your point, Mr. Miller, HOA subdivisions will do a little bit better. The question is why? Why
I
do you
think
think?
there's many answers to that. One of the answers, I think HOH subdivisions, and I've been consistent with this. Charlottesville City, I think you're still going to lose the bet to Sir Neil.
Yeah,
Sir Neil is going to win that bet on upzoning in Charlottesville City.
yeah.
And when Charlottesville City, it gets more density is allowed and zoning is loosened, some folks in Charlottesville City are going to be aggravated by that because they're going to say it's going to impact their quality of life. And those folks are going to need to stay in the area because they have family or friends or a life or a job, and they're going to move from Charlottesville City to an HOH subdivision where upzoning is not going to happen.
And that may be part of it, but that's probably not, historically, that's not the big, historically, HOA subdivisions tend to turn more volume, more
They
value.
have amenities.
They have amenities.
People take care of the roads.
People take care of the roads. It's about raising children.
Yeah. Got
Or-
walking paths.
Or if you have some portions of it for for the gray-hairs
For the
folks,
golf, for the pool, the tennis.
for the retirees, or for the people of a certain age, like me, where you want to, have that. And we're helping a ton of clients that are literally doing that. They're hitting a certain age. We're actually doing a bunch of new construction stuff that they can't manage their 2 acres or 10 acres or whatever it is, and they're moving into some subdivisions where people cut their grass and so forth and so on. So lifestyle has more of an impact on that than I think what Charlottesville is going to do. There will be some people that will move out for it. But yeah, I the bet is my mustache, and I've kind of been prepping my wife. So how do you feel about me not having a mustache? So, because I'm pretty confident. I ebb and flow. At some.
I mean, we're halfway through January.
Yeah.
You have till, is it June 20th?
No, 19th.
June 19th.
June 19th.
So
I know
mean,
this date well. June 19th.
February, March, April,
Yeah.
May, June. We got 5 months.
Yeah, well, I've forgotten that they actually do joint public hearings.
Yeah, we found that out on Monday.
On Monday, and once I found that out, I was like, darn it, because I was banking on.
Keith Smith shaving his mustache for the first time in 38 years.
And Neil is not shaving it.
Live on this set
since
before
85.
June 19th.
Since 85.
Neil Williamson is going to win that bet, Keith Smith says.
So, to answer your question, as far as Albemarle County goes, yes, your HOAs will do better. Within certain HOAs, certain sections of it may increase a little bit more, a little bit less on it. But knowing micro markets is going to matter in 2023, and knowing the data for that, and knowing how to interpret it, and how to convey that out to the buyer or the seller, because it impacts the seller side, right? Also, I think emotionally, and I may be wrong, I had this conversation with a client that we're helping to do a multi-generational purchase. So this is where two families are going to live in one home on it. And it's interesting. I expected to have the conversation about interest rates. And eventually it happened, but it was at the very end of the kitchen table discussion. And they weren't concerned about it. They were like, okay, 5 or 6% is normal. Right. So, I think interest rates are going to be a little bit less of an impact on the conversation, and it's going to be more of the where and
the
the
longer
feature.
the interest rates stay where they're at,
People get used to it.
The more they get to be normal.
Yeah, well, it's what we've been talking about.
It was just a sticker shock of rates jumping so quickly.
Without a doubt.
In 2022, in the first quarter, you could get a 30-year with good credit in the low threes, and then by close of business,
when that was going on, what were we talking about?
Yeah.
Repetitively.
the sticker shock was going to have an impact.
No, when it was at 2 or 3%. Don't
was
get
like,
used
this
to this.
was not the norm.
This is not normal.
Yeah, and they over 2x'd in one calendar year. That was the problem.
So the other reason why I think inventory is going to remain, there's a couple of reasons why inventory is going to remain anemically low. The first is the lack of a missing middle, the lack of developments going through the process and coming through the ground at some sort of normal pace, or some sort of realistic pace, not these years and years and years. So that's impacting inventory. So new construction impacts existing, right? The other issue is, nobody's really talking about this, but this 2 to 3%, the people that bought 2 or 3 years ago, they ain't selling anytime soon.
Well, John Blair, who's watching this program on LinkedIn, John Blair, you remember when
He brought that up.
He brought this up.
Yeah, and he was right.
And John Blair was right. In fact, I'm going to say right now, John Blair, I'm going to tag him, literally on LinkedIn as we speak. You were right. And I'm going to literally type this in as we go.
So
he said on the show, in the comment section, that folks that locked in refinances or new mortgages at 4% or lower, that these folks would not sell their houses.
Yeah, 4% I think is on the edge. I think when the
3.75 or lower. If it had a 3 on it, he's
if it
like,
had
they're
a
not
3,
going to sell.
I would agree with that. If it had a 3 in it, some of them had a 2 in front of it, right?
Yeah, a lot of people had 2 in front of them.
Now, let's quantify that. They're not going to sell until they have to, right? Life things happen, so they have to. New jobs, more children.
They're less motivated to sell because of generationally low interest rates.
Just to sell, right? Hey, let's just sell our house and move.
Is not
on the table.
Right. And then another thing to point out, those folks that had the 2 and 3, those folks that have the 2 and 3% mortgages, they locked in at a time where prices were considerably lower than they are now. So not only would they sell into a higher interest rate, they would sell into a higher price point.
So, and the reason I'm confident in doing this, the proof is in the pudding here. So I'm going to give me a minute here to double check and pull back what was sold a year ago on the what came on new and went pending. So if you just give me a minute, I'm going to scroll through my trusty phone and go to January. I believe it's January 13th was the last slide I did in 2021, and look at the volume difference. So if you
While you find that, I'm
Thank you.
highlighting an article from the Free Enterprise Forum that came out today. And yes, Neil, I actually checked this out. The author of the article is Brent Wilson. Not only is Brent Wilson a champion of Greene County and a watchdog of local government in Greene County, but Brent Wilson is also a volleyball aficionado. And few people in Central Virginia have contributed to the sport of volleyball like Brent Wilson has contributed to the sport of volleyball. I put him right there in the category of Lance Rogers and Mark Ragland for what Brent Wilson has done for girls volleyball in Central Virginia. Brent Wilson wrote an article in the Free Enterprise Forum today about Greene County, and the Board of Supervisors in Greene County voted to refund 1.7 million of 2022 personal property taxes to citizens by February of this year. That's what I'm talking about.
Do that Clapper thing.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. That's awesome.
And I will highlight this. Neil Williamson, on Tuesday, and viewers and listeners of this talk show, on Tuesday I gave a chat to the Monticello Ruritan Club. The Monticello Ruritan Club is located in Blenheim, okay, in Albemarle County. And I explained that there are examples of government doing stuff like this and or running budget neutral forecasts and budgets.
Yes.
I highlighted Nelson County.
Yeah, Nelson County, Greene County is another example. They're actually getting money back. They're getting checks back, I believe, if I read the article correctly.
They're getting money in February. Yeah.
So they're not using them as credit towards the next years. They're actually physically getting a check. I don't really know the answer to that.
Let's see here.
So
refund to citizens by February 2023.
Yeah, so why budget is so important, there's a term, and Neil will surely echo this, there's a term that you want to start hearing in the budget discussions about equalization, right? So at minimum, you want to see equalization, right? So that the assessed value is X, the budget is Y, the rate is set at some number to make your amount of money you pay per year equal, balance, zero from one year to the next. It may be a little bit off one way or the other, but if they start using this term, hey, we are going to do an equalization, that's going to be a great term. But to go back to volume and why I really think volume is going to be off, and I do want to give a quick shout out to Greene County. I'm going to be doing the same numbers for Greene County sometime next week. I can't remember which show.
People are asking for Fluvanna and Louisa.
Fluvanna's on Monday.
Okay, people are asking Louisa.
Okay, Fluvanna's on Monday. Louisa, I can maybe we'll do Wednesday or Wednesday. We've got Scott back because we want to talk about mortgage rates. Then I might do that on Friday.
People are asking. Dan Pettit's asking for Lake Monticello specifically.
Yeah, so we're going to do that on Monday. Actually, we're going to be. I was talking to Woody on the way in. We're going to break on top of the assessment question. We're going to do numbers for Fluvanna County, and I always break that in half. Right, we do the county on its own, and then Lake Monticello, because Lake Monticello is 44% of the county. It really skews things on that end of it. But I think as far as volume goes, I think you're in new construction, maybe not 2023, maybe more into 2024. But Greene County has a ton of projects that are coming off the books and going into the ground. And I remember Neil mentioning a number, and it might be a lot like my 90%, but 2,000 sticks in my head for some reason. But
that's a lot of units.
I think these are.
Is that right, Neil? I see you watching over here.
Yeah, these are.
Hold us accountable.
Yeah, hold Smith accountable anyway. So there are. These are projects that are either already been approved or in the process of getting approved, in the process of getting built. So the point I'm making, regardless of the number, Greene County has this pipeline of new construction that's flowing. You don't see a lot of you don't hear or see a lot of that in Albemarle. You surely don't hear or see that in Fluvanna County, right? Louisa, you're very minimal on that. But why I think inventory is going to stay anemic. I just, as of today, as of today, going backwards, so that's the 13th, going 7 days back, in the car footprint, Charlottesville Area Association of Realtors. Look at that.
Very nicely done.
I think I
got that acronym right.
I think I got that right.
And you're not even on the board anymore.
Maybe that's what it took. So 55 homes came on, 64 went off. On January 15th, so that's 2 days more than today, January 15th, 2022, 53, because I figured out you could take a picture and save your date. Who knew? 53 new came on, 66 went pending. So it is awfully close. It's almost identical for the same, plus or minus a day or two, for the same 7-day snapshot this year versus last year. And I would not expect to see. I expected this number to be substantially below this week, this last 7 days, then, because January last year, we were still at that 2 or 3% mortgage. The Band-Aid didn't get ripped off in January. So I'm tracking these every week, but that's really interesting. Again, somebody by the name of Jerry Miller taught me how to do this, and Yvonne Smith.
Yeah, I think that was your daughter.
Weidel,
Neil Williamson says 2,000 units, close to 2,000 units are approved near the Greene County, Albemarle County line.
Yeah.
Some are age-restricted units.
Well, that just went through.
Some are age-restricted.
Yeah.
2,000 units near the Greene, Albemarle County line. And I'll tell you, getting from Greene County, especially when you're close to the Albemarle County line, to Charlottesville or urban Albemarle for employment purposes, that's not that far.
No, it depends.
It's not that far.
Yeah, it depends how you time your traffic lights.
Yeah, it's not that far.
No, the artery 29 that takes you in is supposedly designed to take it, right?
Yeah.
On that end of it, where in Fluvanna, you've got to do 53, 618, all these different roads to go get in there. But Greene County will either be Wednesday or Friday on the numbers. So we want to stay on Albemarle County a little bit,
Sure, or go Charlottesville City.
Yeah, well, I do want to talk about single family attached in Albemarle County, since we kind of started there, because it's kind of important to take a look at the volume.
That's slide 3, Judah.
For Albemarle County, please,
yeah.
Judah. So that is it was kind of flat, but if you take a look at 2021 was, these are no new construction, guys, was 455 units were sold. I have to add the caveat. This also includes what they call villas or duplexes, right? So they're not sectioned out. So a duplex is obviously 2 homes. They have 2 end units. So it is townhomes plus these duplexes, which some people can consider it's not a single family detached, because it's not detached, but they are grouped into attached. But 2022 was 337, 20 was 344, 19 was 344, 18 was 340. So other than this big 111 jump between 20 and 21 and 118 going backwards in 22,
it's been the same.
It's been
since 2017, basically.
It's been pretty consistent. 2017 was at 319.
319. Now we're at 337.
Yeah. So, if you look at the charts, when you get a chance to, if you're listening and pull them down, the visuals are very, very stunning. But if you go to slide number 4, Judah,
Two people have asked for the future slides. This is good feedback here.
Sure.
This is from Carter. Carter says, I love the slides and the graphs. For us folks that are not geeky when it comes to real estate, and he gave us the smiley face when he used the word geeky.
I got it. I tend to geek out. So
spell out SFA and YOY for us. And then he says, Carter says, I picked it up as you were talking about the slide, but I didn't know what those acronyms meant at first.
Got it.
That's good feedback.
Yeah, it's good feedback,
Yeah.
and we started in the beginning of the show, so we should repetitively do it. So thank you, Carter. I did put on the bottom of the slides, and Obviously, if you're watching it live, it's very difficult.
Small.
Yeah, kind of
Yeah,
tiny,
yeah.
kind of tiny. But SFA stands for single family attached, and YOY is year over year.
Year over year, yeah.
So what I'll do, and I use the red pen. I will make a note. So the question for Carter is where you're looking at it. If I have to reduce the font to actually add in single family attached and year over year. My concern is, would you be able to see enough of it to read it on the font? But I'll take a look at it for Monday and see if I can get a little bit better with my acronyms. But
Yeah.
to be clear, those who are just coming in, SFD stands for single family.
Single family detached.
SFA stands for single family.
Single family attached.
Year over year is year over year. YOY is year over year. And I don't think I have any YTDs in there, but if there is, that's year to date.
Right.
On.
He likes the graphs, though.
Yeah, I mean,
I like the graphs, too.
The bars tell the story.
Yeah.
Right, on it. So if you take a look at slide 4, which is Albemarle County single-family attached year over year, this is without new construction. These are median sales prices. We went from 18 and 19 were pretty flat. I mean, that was about spot on, $1,000 over on that end of it. But in 20, it jumped up by 30. 21, it jumped up by another 30. And then 22, it jumped up by 35. So basically from 19 to 22, there's been this about $30,000 plus or minus per year jump.
That's nice.
But you're at 350.
Yeah.
Well, the question becomes, is that a housing affordability number?
No, that's not housing affordability.
And at 18 and 19 and 17, we're at 240, 255. The question becomes, is that, housing affordability? I can share with folks, because I chair the Piedmont Community Land Trust, and I know this because we've sold over 24 new construction units in the last 18 months, plus or minus, on that. In order to hit the 80% AMI, your sales price right now at today's mortgage rates really can't go much over 215. So that's kind of the magic number right now. Now, as interest rates drop, that 215 climbs. When the rate was 3 or 4%, it was like 225. But in reality, and I've got a year and a half of experience and data in this now. To hit 80% AMI affordability. AMI is area medium income.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry about that with the acronyms again. The sales price need to be somewhere around 250.
And that doesn't exist.
It doesn't. I haven't looked at what's on the market, but
That doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that kind of wraps. We can get into a little bit more of new construction in Albemarle County if you guys want.
We do have new construction attached. For those that are asking.
Okay, great. So we can do that.
That's
so
slide 7 first. Slide 7, Albemarle County, Judah.
Thank you for keeping Smith on track,
Yeah.
by the way.
Give us a thumbs up when that's on screen, please. That's on screen.
So Albemarle County, single family attached, SFA, single family attached, YOY, year over year. This new construction only. So I drop everything out that is not new construction via the car MLS. So if you take a look at the volume, you see how that volume's bouncing all over the place? The biggest year was 2019 at 269. 2022, we were 157 units. 21, we were 188. 20, we were 210. So basically from 19 to 2022, we've dropped
A lot.
a lot. Every year we've reduced the volume of units,
Considerably.
right? And
Dan, this is a slide that's right up your alley because you're a big fan of the attached product.
well, again, if you want to get to affordability and entry level, for lack of a better term, it's a good. I mean, you went through this. That's what you did. How you got into the home ownership game.
Ville's the Southern Ridge. Dan Pettit was in the sales office.
There you go. So it's a great way to do that. The question becomes, of the 2,000 units that is coming to Greene County, what's going to be hitting this number? If you look at 2018, we had 202 units sold. That's still above where we are in 222. 2017, by the way, was 153. So we're looking more like 2017 numbers. But Judah, if you go to 8, again, these numbers include these duplexes, villas, right? They're not, that is not sectioned out, usually which are more expensive on that end of it. But if you look at the bars, we kind of steadily go up from 2019 up to 2022, raising on 2019 $351 to $468,000 in 2022. That's the benchmark of volume. Again, there's certain number of units in there that are these duplexes that are kind of skewing the numbers a little bit on it. I haven't quite figured out, there's not a way within the normal search system to pull it out other than actually manually printing out 157 sheets and figuring out which one is which and create my own spread. These take hours.
Yeah, that would take a long time.
That would take a long time.
Yeah.
But I just want to caveat that's that. So, volume is going down. If you look at slide 7, right, where the bars are going down on that as far as units of, and it's almost the reverse on the price. So the question is how many more new construction attached are coming up, and maybe Greene County is going to be the.
Is it in the developer's best interest to create attached product, or is it in the developer's best interest to just do a single-family detached at $850,000?
Yeah, it's a math problem, right? And you also got to, and I'm just trying to put my developer hat on again. It depends on the path of resistance, right? And as we know, about 25% of all these new construction, 25% of
paperwork.
Well, it's regulatory expenses.
Yeah, red tape.
So there's a quarter of these numbers are direct. So if you can make, look, the developers and builders, want to provide what the market wants, but it also has to meet a bottom line, right? The numbers have to work on that end of it. But if through the approval process, through the red tape turning to green tape, if you can make it more cost effective or faster to move through townhomes and make it and tackle this missing middle housing affordability, that's what they'll do. But at the moment, they tend to take the path of least resistance, and at the moment, that's giving the highest return. That makes sense.
It makes great sense. It makes great sense. The data's fantastic, Keith.
Yeah, anytime we do data shows, I get a little concerned that I get too much in the weeds and start geeking out a little bit.
No.
And thank you to Carter for
good feedback on the acronyms.
Yeah, for bringing.
I didn't even think about that. I think that's good feedback.
Well, we've been doing this so long. It's become.
Well, and we live this stuff. I mean,
yeah.
We love this stuff.
So
do you think the likelihood of Albemarle County upticking its inventory this year is just unrealistic?
No, I don't. Yes, the short answer
unrealistic.
To that is you're talking about new construction.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, there's projects are either currently on the projects that are new construction projects that are going to sell. They're either under construction in Albemarle County. They're either under construction now, or they've already got their site plan approval and they're waiting on, DEQ permits, the DEQ Department of Environmental Quality permits. They're waiting on some other permits that are outside the control of Albemarle County and getting on people's development skills. Schedules at this point, but pretty much what you've got in the ground right now is what you're going to have for 2023. That might change 2024, 2025. It really depends on what Albemarle County does with this builder incentive or developer incentive program. Is it really going to be an incentive for them. Other than that, look, they're going to go to Greene County. I mean, that's where they're going to go. And the market will go there because that's where the product is at this point, right? What is that? Kevin Costner, build it and they will come.
If you build it, they will come. Field of Dreams.
Right? They'll go to the other side of the mountain in that end of it. As far as new construction goes, you will not see a lot of new development projects happen, I think, in Albemarle. Charlottesville, when I lose my mustache, you might start seeing some missing middle type of stuff that, where single family detached turns into 1, 2, or
That's
3.
what's going to happen.
3 units. That you'll see a lot of that, I think. Not a lot, but enough of that to count.
Charlottesville City, you'll see single family detached torn down, and you'll see apartments built in place of the single family detached.
So when we get to the city, Charlottesville numbers, I literally didn't do anything with new construction because it was so.
It was anemic.
Yeah, there was
There's nowhere to
single
go.
digit numbers. It just wasn't worth, frankly, the time to do that.
I mean, if you're going to do new construction in Charlottesville City, where would you do it?
Yeah. It's
Parts of Fifeville, parts of Cherry Avenue and Fifeville.
yeah.
Where else would you do it?
Yeah. This. I'm calling it a missing middle rezoning or zoning text amendment. The rewrite that they're doing with the zoning on it, it will have an impact. If people also think you're going to have like 5,000 new units all of a sudden pop up, that's not realistic
Right.
either. But you'll see an uptick on it. It'll take a long time from the time I lose my mustache.
Once you lose that mustache, are you just going to grow it back?
Of course.
Or are you going to leave it off?
Well, depends on how.
Have you thought about it? It depends on the feedback once you shave it?
It depends on how it improves my sexy 60. Right?
Is Yona going to determine that? Because your daughters have never seen you without a mustache. Yona's never seen you without a
No,
mustache.
Yona has. When we first met,
She's seen you without a mustache for a couple of months.
no, it was more than that.
How was it, a year?
Yeah, maybe.
Okay. So you were what, 20,
I was a baby.
21?
I was just old enough to grow a mustache.
20
maybe 22, 23, something like that.
Okay.
Maybe 80. Yeah, I don't know. Somebody do the math. It was 85 when I did it. So I was probably let me see. I became a father at 23. So I must have been 22 when I started growing the mustache. So it's we'll see. Maybe it might make me look 20 years younger. Who knows? I don't know. But
He's 60.
as you know, I'm a creature of habit.
You are.
So,
I know you are.
And the older I'm getting, the more
You are a creature of habit.
but it's getting worse. So.
Neil, we disagree on this one, Neil. I'll ask Keith the question. Will Charlottesville's upzoning positively impact housing affordability? And Michael Plecker, we'll go to your comments here. Grayson, we'll get to your comments here. Laura, we'll get to your comments here on the program. Neil Williamson is committed to
No, was that a question or?
No, I mean, Neil and I respectfully, we're friends, and we respectfully disagree on this. I do not think the upzoning is going to have the impact on housing affordability that other people think.
So
Neil thinks the upzoning is going to have a dramatic impact on housing affordability because he says, and I understand the logic, the additional housing stock, even if it is apartments, is going to create more supply, which could drive down price.
So more of anything will help affordability.
That's Neil's argument.
No, and he's 100% right.
It's his argument.
The question is
the magnitude of it.
The question is, when I lose my mustache, and how they actually set it up, right? What the rules and regulations and the process and all that fun stuff happens. Saying you're going to do rezoning or ZTA, zoning text amendments, or
Just call it upzoning.
I hate that term.
Why do
but
you hate upzoning?
I just don't like it. I can't tell you why. Just from a marketing perspective, I don't like it. But anyway,
Okay.
so we'll use it
Upzoning.
for the sake of a talk show.
Yeah, I mean,
We'll call it-
people understand upzoning.
Yeah, some of it may go back down too. So it's not all of it is going. All the areas may go up. Some of it may stay the same.
They're looking to loosen zoning in the city.
Yeah. So what they're trying to do is increase density
Yeah, by loosening zoning.
by increasing density.
Yeah.
Okay. Next subject.
Well, look, here's my point. I understand
But I'll
that loosening zoning could create more density, but it's going to be years till that happens.
Yeah, of course.
A long time.
Yeah, I don't think Neil is.
I know
Not
he
saying-
doesn't mean by the flip of a switch right
Yeah,
away.
yeah.
When the upzoning is approved, then the
Oh,
developers,
yeah.
then
So-
the developers are going to start having to tear things down.
look, I have
They're going to have to start building apartments.
I have experience with this out in Portland and Seattle. I've actually been on the ground on this stuff with it. So losing my mustache and getting the zoning done is only a small portion of the process, right? And one of the problems they ran into in Seattle in particular, not to get into the weeds on it, but what happened was the zoning, and that was actually at a state level. Excuse me, no, this was Portland. At the state level, right? Nobody ever took a look at, well, hey, you can do X, Y, and Z, but how does it impact the building code? So now all of a sudden they approved this zoning that could happen, right? You can do X, Y, and Z, but it conflicted with the local building codes and the state building codes, and they needed to realign those items on that end of it. So, for instance, you got to have a certain ceiling height in a basement, right, for a building code scenario, but they didn't address that in the zoning rewrite. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So that all that's going to go through. Then how do they approve it? Right? How do you have the staff to approve them?
Does the University of Virginia respond with the additional housing stock in Charlottesville City by admitting more students because they know they have more places to sleep, because there's more apartments around UVA?
Yeah, so I'm more on the technical side, on the process side of it. There are so many steps that have to happen after I lose my mustache. I'm trying to say that out loud regularly.
What's going to happen with this increased density?
But it has the
more
ability.
expensive apartments.
It has the ability, if done right. It has the ability, if done right, to impact housing affordability. I'll say that again. It has
There's a lot of ifs right there.
It has the ability. It has the ability, if done right, and it first shot out of the box, I guarantee you, once they approve it won't be right. They'll start amending it, right, as they learn through it. But it has the ability to impact housing affordability. Here's a prime example. Auxiliary dwelling units, ADUs. Now, right now, there's actually a bill running through the state Senate that's going to, if it passes, state legislature, if it passes, that'll make auxiliary dwelling units a little easier to build and approve at the local level. Don't know if that's got a chance or not, but it's going through the system. Right now, the city of Charlottesville, in order to build an ADU, it must be owner occupied.
Right. Well, Richmond changed that, right? The city of Richmond changed that.
Correct. And as you know, our youngest daughter and son-in-law are moving there, and we're looking at opening up an office out there to do that. So we're doing a lot of research, and I've been diving into the Richmond market quite regularly, actually, on it. But to use the example of because when I was out in Seattle, other than to see our new granddaughter on that, I actually was touring some projects I was loosely involved with or had meetings about and helped them guide them a little bit on, where their local land trusts are building ADUs to put housing affordability in. And it didn't change until they removed their two things. Their home ownership requirement and parking requirements on that end of it. And so what happened is the land trust was actually leasing land from homeowners, building them and leasing or renting. They're not selling. They're doing this on a rental scenario out. If there's some structure like that here, it'll have a huge impact. If not, you may be right. It may be for the college kids. It may be for the
This is what my prediction is, and I've
but
been consistent.
Willow
with it.
Trees, right, just got bought up, but they're going to grow
They're growing their worker base.
big time.
Yeah, my prediction has been all along. The upzoning is going to create more expensive apartments. It's going to be beneficial for landlords. It's going to be beneficial for developers. It's going to be beneficial for students. It's not going to create more affordability. You're going to get
Unless it's done right.
You're going to get more. I've been consistent with this all along, and my crystal ball has proven to be accurate many times on this show. You're going to get more bedrooms and doorways like the flats on West Main. My buddy's son is a third-year student at UVA. You know what he pays per bedroom at the flats at West Main?
$1,000 a month.
$1,500 a month.
It went up. Holy shit.
Per bedroom.
That's insane.
It's him and 3 friends in one apartment.
And each one of them spend $1,500.
Each one of them spends $1,500 a month. Yeah. You're talking 6 G's per apartment at the flats.
I can tell you 4 years ago that was $1,000.
Now it's $1,500.
So I had a client that had an architect, Swiss architect friend of ours.
Great location.
He was on the tennis team, and he was living in there, and it was $1,000 a month. If you know anything about Swiss, they're pretty direct for pieces of S double hockey sticks T. However you spell
that says, I didn't even speak without that one. I think you meant H-E double hockey sticks. Instead, you went S-H-I-T. You combined 2 profanities when spelling them out right there. I wasn't even sure what you were doing there. It took me a second.
Yeah, you okay?
Now I got it. $1,500 a month for the flats on West Main.
It would not.
That's the tall building, guys, where Hardywood used to be located in.
It would not be a Real Talk with Keith Smith show.
This is what makes it great.
If I did not come up with a new word.
Keithism.
With a new word for the day.
Keithism.
But look.
That's what's going to happen. UVA is going to see the more density. They'll admit more students. You're going to have more young professionals living around Charlottesville that are tied to science, technology, engineering, math, and finance.
I don't think UVA will impact it as much as the data science.
Data science schools, UVA.
And,
Hotel Conference Center.
I mean, Willow Tree was like, when they did the interview on 29, they were just saying.
Tobias Dinkel was like, we're going to hire a lot more people, and we're going to bring them here.
And they're all coming from?
Well, they got a 2-year program with Piedmont.
Yep.
They're also going to do some outside hiring from the area as well.
But where are those outside hires coming from?
I mean, I would imagine Manhattan, Northern Virginia.
No, he said it out west.
Yeah.
He says they're bringing people from out west back this way. That's what I heard in the interview.
That's what's going to happen. It's not going to create affordability.
Look, we do this on a regular basis, right? This is Batman and Robin, good cop, bad cop.
Oh, absolutely. What makes the show special?
Bear Bull.
Yeah.
Right? I want you to be wrong.
I know you do, but you know I'm going to be right.
But I don't. If it's not
nuanced,
if the details matter, if the details don't allow it, you're running the risk of doing it.
You are already seeing.
I'll tell you right now, my brain is thinking it. If I was not 60 but 40,
you would have bought a boatload of stuff.
I would be buying stuff right now.
That's what I'm saying. You are already seeing folks that
I got clients.
Smaller, medium-sized builders and developers paying astronomical stuff for real estate.
Absolutely.
And they're going to have to build something with monthly rents that justify that debt service.
So on the flip side, on another side of that, what time is it? Oh, geez.
Yeah.
This will be helpful for the small to medium builder and developer.
Because it gives them something to do.
Well, they have the ability to do it, right?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
The Stanley, we love Stanley Martins. They're not going to do this.
Well, that's not their business model.
That's not their business model.
No.
But a Bramante, a Dominion Custom Homes, an Interstate.
Well, Bramante Homes did it. I helped them
on Shamrock.
I helped them buy the house on Shamrock.
On Shamrock, right?
Absolutely.
The folks that are going to benefit from this are not folks that need affordability. I've stood by that statement, Neil, for as long as you know me on this talk show.
I want it to be if they tackle the 2 issues of ownership, right, and parking, you might see some land. I can tell you at the board meetings we're talking about this at the land trust. Guys, can we go out and find a couple of $1 million and start buying up homes in it? The problem is you got to have that couple of $1 million bucks. And
who has that?
Well, typically not nonprofits. That's the struggle there on that end of it.
Eagles Landing is a great model, Dan Pettit. Eagles Landing is a model very similar to the Flats, where you have an apartment or an apartment suite that has 3 or 4
Well, it
bedrooms.
was designed for it that way.
Each of those bedrooms has its own lock,
Yeah.
its own bathroom, and its own bedroom.
Yeah.
So it's like an apartment within an apartment.
So-
then there's a common area that's shared.
So if Willow Tree is growing its employees, which is they are, and
Data
these are,
science.
and these are all 6-figure
Oh,
folks,
no doubt.
on that end of it. And if you had a business model, again, forget about housing affordability, just looking at a business model, you turn around and buy a home over in that area within walking distance to that
Willow Tree?
Of Willow Tree,
500 grand easy.
yeah. Well, if you've got the 500 grand, you can buy it and sit on it and wait for the zoning for me to lose my mustache and go through it.
And then your value's even better.
Then you start adding your ADUs, your extra.
Your granny cottage.
Yeah, and then, or you do it internally, externally,
Yeah.
whatever it is. All of a sudden now you're
On a gold mine.
doubling, tripling your revenue.
I mean, can you imagine a 25-year-old or a 27-year-old or a 30-year-old buying one of those homes in Woolen Mills that happens to have a basement apartment access?
Yeah.
And then on top of that, like you said, they can build a tiny house in the backyard.
Sure.
Then next thing you know, they get $3 grand a month in rent from those two.
Now, take what you just said and say, okay, I don't have to be owner occupied, and the land trust comes in and buys that and does it. Now we can start producing housing affordability for that. I'm going back to that. This is my plea. You know, I've been trying to raise about $5 million. So anybody wants to throw some money? I've been
I know
trying.
you have.
I've been trying to
You're
write.
good at raising money.
I'm trying to raise $5 million for a fund for the land trust to do that, because that business model we just talked about also works for housing affordability. You just got to do it, and you've got to have that capital to do it.
You are fantastic. We save Charlottesville City to next show.
Yeah, sure. There's only 4 slides because there's no new construction, but we'll put them up on Real
On
Talk.
Monday's show,
No, we'll put it up on
Real Talk with Keith Smith.
so you can
Yeah.
pull the tab down and go to Charlottesville year over year numbers on it. But we'll talk a little bit about it on Monday, and because I know you've got a big show to do here today.
Tell us what we have planned for Monday.
Yeah, so we are going to talk a little bit more about reassessments in Albemarle County. We're going to take a deep dive into the slides and the data and the year-over-year numbers for Fulvana. We'll sneak in a little bit of City of Charlottesville into it, but we'll have Woody Fincham and Nikki Chambliss with us. So
Great show.
So Smith will just sit here and drink coffee and let them be geniuses.
We have a great show lined up on Monday. Keith Smith, Jerry Miller, Real Talk with Keith Smith on a Friday morning.
Everybody have a great weekend.
You have a good weekend.
I'm back in the saddle. We're slammed all weekend long working, so I'm excited.
Real Talk with Keith Smith is presented by Yes Realty Partners. If you need help with your Albemarle County assessments, now's the time to do it. Reach out to Keith. He'll
Or
help you with that
your
process.
trusted real estate advisor,
Or
whoever
your
that may.
trusted advisor. Judah, thank you for rotating the slides.
Yeah, thank you, Judah.
The Friday edition of the talk show archived online at realtalkwithkeithsmith.com. I Love Siebel show is up in about 50 minutes. We'll see you soon, guys. Take care.
Thank you.
Good job, Keith.
Thank you.
Bravo. Excellent show.
I mean, just the week-over-week numbers are just shocking me. I really did not expect those numbers.